Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing a cryptid encounter video on vampires. Now, I'm doing this video for a friend of mine. She asked me to research the topic and to do a serious and honest video about her favorite creature of folklore, the vampire. And here it is. I'm going to do this video. Full disclosure, I do not believe vampires really exist. If they do, they would be, by necessity, be singular beings hiding out as best as they could. If anyone discovered their presence that could prove they were real, modern military has tons of ways to find and eliminate such monsters. But what's worse, our modern military would probably capture said monster and try to find a way to use it to bolster their capabilities. Imagine hordes of vampiric soldiers loyal only to the cause, any cause. That would be horrific and terrifying. Large groups of vampires would be easy to spot. It has to be a singular creature because large groups of vampires would be easy to spot and easier to eliminate for our modern military. With modern technology, forward-looking infrared would be able to spot a cold person. It boggles the mind how easy modern technology could deal with a vampire, any vampire. All right, now, before we get into this video, though, if you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you would hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on social media, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all of my books there. I like to think I write good stories that make you think. I wrote a 3-book series, science fiction western series called Drifters, one of which deals with vampires. I wrote a fun story about a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out, and I don't think there's any vampires in there. It's called The House Off Farrago Road. I wrote a political fantasy called The Righteous President. And I've got 2 of them so far. I'm working on the 3rd. It's science fiction, futuristic space warfare. It's a study of humanity from an alien perspective. The first one is Vanguard 1. The second one is Task Force Terminus. I hope you get them, and I hope you like them. Now, on with the vampires. Historically, every culture in the world, on every continent, has had stories of some form of evil, undead creature that survives by drinking the blood of the living. In modern times, authors and popular cinema have turned the vampire into a romantic figure. The legends from the past are far from romantic. The most famous vampire tale is that of Bram Stoker's Dracula. It is based on a number of strange tales, but primarily on that of, I'm going to try to say his name right, Voivode of Wallachia. Vlad the Impaler. Yeah. Vlad the Impaler saw his land constantly beset by Turks, and wanting to protect his people, he opted for the horror tactic. Vlad would impale his enemies on poles and eat dinner, allegedly sopping up blood with bits of bread as they slowly died. Then he would leave the corpses up on the poles around his castle as a warning to his enemies. And you know what? It worked. The Turks left his nation alone for centuries. Yeah. Vlad the Impaler is a national hero of Romania. The name of Dracula comes from Voivoda's father, Vlad Dracul. There's other historical vampiric figures. I found this one I'd never heard of before in my research. I'm going to try to say his name right. Giuri Grando. Giuregrando. This guy lived from 1578 to 1656 and was a villager from an area which is in modern-day Croatia. Grando may have been the first real person described as a vampire in historical records. Grando terrorized his village for 16 years after his death, rising from his grave at night and killing numerous people. Grando would also allegedly appear to his widow, Ivana, in her bedroom late at night where he would sexually assault her. Finally, now, if that happened once, you might fool her, but 16 years worth? Come on. Finally, villagers led by a prefect and a priest went to his grave and dug up his coffin. His body was perfectly preserved and had a smile on his face. They tried to pierce his heart with a hawthorn stick, but it would not pierce his flesh. Father Giorgio said some exorcism prayers, and then they sawed his head off. As the saw tore his skin, the vampire screamed, and blood flowed from the cut. Once he had been decapitated, the village knew peace once again. All of this story is documented in historical records. So they actually believe this to be true. They put it in the historical record. In the 16th century, the Countess Elizabeth Bathory of Hungary became obsessed with the notion of fresh blood keeping her young. She was infamous for murdering young women, preferably virgins, and bathing in their blood. Eventually, in 1610, 4 of her servants were tried and convicted for torturing and killing hundreds of girls. The Countess herself was imprisoned in her own castle because she was noble. They couldn't, kill her, but they imprisoned her in her own castle. She later died of mysterious circumstances. We don't know what happened to her. As I understand it, this Elizabeth Bathory was one of the tales that Bram Stoker used as inspiration for Dracula. So, in times past, many people died of consumption, and that was the common term for the affliction known as tuberculosis. Because of the effect on the victim, tuberculosis or consumption was often confused with vampirism because it makes everybody skinny, gaunt, pale. Blood from their mouth. I can see that happening. And many people were buried and actually were thought to be vampires. In modern times, and again, I apologize to my friend. In modern times, vampires are limited to delusional kooks who believe they are creatures of the night. They assault people and usually end up in prison or in mental wards. Clinical vampirism is a delusion in which those afflicted feel the need to drink human blood for survival, or to use blood somehow to be happy. But it's only a delusion. This is America. If a person wants to dress up as a vampire and pretend, knock yourself out. I don't care. If groups of these people want to get together and pretend, nobody cares. As long as it's all consensual and nobody's getting hurt, again, nobody cares. If 2 people want to engage in blood play and they're careful not to, sever an artery and bleed each other dry, knock yourself out. What 2 people do in the privacy of their own bedroom, as long as it's all consensual and nobody gets hurt, nobody cares. But if you find yourself sneaking around at night looking to break into someone's house and drink their blood, seek out professional help. You are delusional and a danger to yourself and others. Find a cop or a priest and ask for help. To the best of my knowledge, real vampires do not exist. There is more physical evidence for the existence of Bigfoot and aliens than there is for real vampires. There are kooks running around in covens pretending to be vampires? Sure. Are there kooks running around in covens pretending to be vampires? Sure. I can't read my own damn writing. The biggest grouping is in New Orleans, and some of the most prevalent public groups are in Texas and in the New England area, but such groups exist all across the United States and around the globe. But they just pretend to be vampires. They know they aren't real vampires. There is not one documented modern case of an attack which can be categorized as a real vampire attack. The attacks of this kind had human perpetrators and were solved. Is it possible there were cover-ups? Sure. There's a book out there, and I tout it all the time. It's called Forbidden Archaeology. A man named Michael Cremo wrote it. And in that, he tells about lies the scientific community is telling us about our human past on this planet. Great book if you're into, cover-ups and things like that. Forbidden Archaeology is a great book. Check it out. It's a tough read, like I say, but it's a good book. So it is possible that the governments of the world are covering this stuff up, trying to keep people from panicking or whatever, and I get that. But who knows? As far as I know, vampires are not real. They don't, stalk the night. If somebody attacks you looking to drink your blood, shoot him. That would be my thing. Because he's just a normal person. I hope this finds everybody well. And again, I apologize to my friend. She made an honest request, and I made an honest video, and I'm sorry. But there are no such things as vampires for real. I hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all. Vanguard 1, Devo Polan, a scientific representative from a pacifist race called the Gandhiri, has come to Earth to learn the one thing that humans do better than anyone else in the galaxy: to fight. In the sequel, Task Force Terminus, Earth is at war with an alien race called the Amdola. Devo Polan's new commission in the Terran fleet exposes him to bigotry and treachery, and he comes to realize that sometimes political and military maneuvering are one and the same.